Indeed. 6:09. Smart motorways, next subject. They are no longer going to be built, as Rishi Sunak acknowledged the concerns about safety and cost.
Well, Downing Street confirmed 14 planned smart motorways will be removed from the government's road building plans, 11 of which were already under construction.
Now, yesterday on GB News, Camilla Tominey spoke to the chairman of the Conservative Party, that's Greg Hands, who said halting the construction was the right decision.
It'd be right for us to, as I said, look at the evidence, to come about it with bearing in mind all the factors that are involved, and that's why we've taken the decision as a result of the public concern to cease new smart motorways. That's what I think is the right decision. We totally understand the concern, and it's quite right, the government puts public safety first above anything else. That is why we stopped doing a new smart motorway as a result of that concern, as a result of public safety fears.
Joining us now, Claire Mercer. Claire, good morning to you. Claire, you became spokesperson for Smart Motorways Kill tragically after your husband, and we've spoken before, was killed on one of those motorways. What happened? What were the circumstances around that tragedy? And our condolences to you as we talk about this.
Thank you. My husband was on his way to work one Friday morning and he had a minor collision on the M1 in Sheffield. It should have just been a bad start to the day. Both drivers should have been on their way within a few minutes, but because it was at a sign that said no hard shoulder for 4 miles, 4 years ago we barely knew anything about smart motorways as the general public. And they didn't know what to do, I assume. They did travel further down the road trying to find somewhere safer to stop, but they couldn't, and it's your obligation to stop. It's your legal obligation to stop after an accident. So they pulled over as far left as they could, but they couldn't get right out of the live running lane because of the crash barrier, and they themselves couldn't get over the crash barrier because of a 30-foot drop the other side. So they were left stranded in a live running lane, and the obvious happened. I mean, lorries can't manoeuvre the same as smaller vehicles, and it's almost always a lorry in these cases because of exactly that reason, and almost always the people are out of their vehicles. So Claire, you're not even in a car when you're hit by a HGV doing 56 miles an hour. So the obvious happened, and it spread absolute carnage across 4 lanes of the motorway, and even then, the technology that should have picked them up even when just 2 of them stopped didn't even pick them up when there was absolute carnage across 4 lanes of the motorway.
Claire, even as you describe that awful situation, I can so envisage it. Anybody who's a driver can so envisage it. You just feel so vulnerable. Every time I'm on a smart motorway, I think, I hope I don't break down, I hope I don't get a puncture, I hope nothing happens to the car. But here's the thing. When Greg Hands makes that statement yesterday, why can't they just say, we're doing it on safety issues? Why did they have to bring in the cost of it all? So is it cost or is it safety? Are they convinced on the safety issue, or is it just a cost-saving measure?
It's just cost and timing. What's around the corner? The local and the general elections. It's cost and timing. They now know that this is a vote winner. So, and, you know, naively, for 4 years nearly, I've been campaigning on the human lives side of it. That got me nowhere. So even I started throwing around about the cost of it. I said, all right, if you're not going to do it for human lives, do it for cost. As a country, we are broke and we can't afford the absolute bare essentials like education, like healthcare. So, you know, do it on cost alone. The public doesn't want them. They don't want to pay for them. Do it on cost alone. And I think the penny started to drop eventually. And now the election's around the corner. And it's all incredibly cynical.
Yeah, well,
but to be honest, I don't care why they do it as long as they do it.
But, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's not about safety because there's no plans to get rid of the ones that are open. Yeah, if they're not safe and you're getting rid of new ones, then get rid of them all. Yeah. It's clearly not about safety, which is, as you say, quite depressing.
Exactly. I mean, which ones are killing us? The ones that are currently existing or the ones that are planned for 2025 onwards? Yeah. It's the current ones that are killing us. All they've actually completely scrapped is the ones planned from 2025. There is several that are in the pipeline, that before that they've stopped, but there's still two, the M56 and the M6, that are going to open soon without a hard shoulder. Why? If it's safety, the lane is physically there. Why can they not open with the first lane closed? It would, and it's the same with all the existing ones. There's about 8 control centres in the whole country. That's one switch at every control centre, and you have turned on the hard shoulder the length of the country. Yeah. It would take seconds.
Well, they were brought in for cross reasons as well, Claire, of course, because there are too many cars on the roads. The motorways aren't big enough to handle them. And rather than build the proper lanes or the proper extensions that they need on motorways, they came up with this system for cost reasons initially, which saves them so much more money. The whole thing is a mess, continues to be a mess. Where does that leave you with your crusade with Smart Motorways Kill?
Still fighting, because we've won half the battle, but it's the urgent, immediate half the battle that we've still got to go. So my day hasn't changed. I'm still carrying on with the campaign, and it's as urgent as ever. And we're not going to stop till we've got the hard shoulder back on every single motorway.
You know, Claire, you're so articulate and you're so passionate, and rightly so, doing this in memory of your deceased husband, and just scandalous that it happened, and it shouldn't happen to anyone else. And in terms of deaths, if I'm right, I think it's about 50 since these were introduced.
The number changes depending on how you bracket them, but it's, I mean, the last time one of the large newspapers added it up, they got it to over 78, and that was 2 years ago. But nobody actually collates these. The police don't collate it. The National Highways don't collate it. They don't differentiate between what happened on a smart motorway and what happened on a conventional motorway. So how can they have safety data? If they don't do that, how can they have safety data on smart motorways?
Claire, good luck in your work. Continue to speak out. Thank you very much indeed for getting up this morning and talking to us, because we want to put what you stand for and your organisation, Smart Motorways Kill, stand for to our listeners and viewers this morning. So, Claire Mercer, thank you very much indeed. Claire, live there from Rotherham this morning. What do you think about what she's had to say? What's your experience on a smart motorway? And even if you haven't had an experience, are you naturally just trepidatious?
Have you ever broken down on any motorway, regardless of being smart or not? Because when I was at university, it's a good long while ago, 20 years ago, a group of us were driving home for the holidays, and we broke down, and we were in the hard shoulder. So we had the benefit of a hard shoulder, but the 4 of us got out. We sat on the bank waiting for assistance. And honestly, almost every lorry that was coming along in the slow lane veered towards our car, because they were looking to see what was going on. They were looking at us on the bank. It was so dangerous. We were so frightened in that time, and that was with a hard shoulder. I can't even imagine how terrifying it must be without a hard shoulder.
What does it feel like sitting on that bank?
You physically feel...
And the lorry goes past.
The whole car, because to begin with, we were sitting in the car, and then the whole car was going like this, and we all got out. But honestly, it felt like every single lorry was that close to the car.
No. How long did it take before someone came and looked after you?
45 minutes.
Ooh,
but I think, well, not really. I think people can wait a lot longer. But, because we were girls and on our own, I think we were top of the list. But I have heard horror stories of people having to wait much longer. But really horrible, horrible scenario. And as Claire so, aptly put, the inevitable happened. And there's nothing nice about that. There's no worse way to go, I'd imagine, to be perfectly honest, than a lorry.
Do you think Smart Motorways Kill? Do you think the government are interested in the cost of building them or the safety? Let us know.
Right, the time is 6:18. We're going to bring you up to date with the rest of today's top stories.